Okay, so now let's move on to third parties. We're going to do Nintendo last because, like I say, I think they have a whole lot riding on this, and they're just a very interesting company. Let's just talk about some of the multi-platform third-party games that I'm interested in, or what I would like to hear about from these companies. Okay, first, Capcom. Capcom, we know some of what they're bringing, right? They're bringing DuckTales, they're bringing Lost Planet 3, and they're bringing some other stuff. But Capcom has said that they're going to have some kind of major announcement during E3. What is this major announcement going to be? Of course, all the flags went up. Mega Man. Mega Man. You know, what's his name? I always forget his name. That's the Capcom USA guy at PAX. He accidentally let slip. He made some comment that made it sound like they were working on a new Mega Man game, and then he backpedaled it and was like, I just mean we're always considering, the possibility. Dude, Mega Man, that's the big announcement, right? I hope. That's almost the only thing they could announce that would really impress me at this point. Although, I don't know. Honestly, I always love it when long-lost franchises come back with a vengeance, so they could announce like a really proper high-def, or whatever. I don't really care about the definition type thing, but, a really proper, full next-gen new Breath of Fire. And that would impress me. I'd be impressed with that. But I think that's not going to happen. I think what we're going to see is, franchises that they have more that they're already working with. But I'd love to see Mega Man, and I think that's what they're trying to tease us. So what Mega Man? Obviously, Mega Man Legends 3, if they brought that project back, that would please me. But I think that's a long shot. I'd love to see that, though, on the 3DS or on the Wii U. And Nintendo has good relationships with Japanese third parties. It's American third parties that they have a problem with. There's a chance that they could get an exclusive major Capcom game on the Wii U. That's not impossible to imagine. But I don't know. It's probably not Legends 3, right? It's probably more like a DLC game like Mega Man 11 or something, another retro DLC game. That's the safe move. A lot of people have been wondering if they were ever going to give Mega Man X the retro DLC treatment. That would be cool. But what I'd also really like to see is a really high-resolution, modern 2D Mega Man game. They were doing that up through the PS1 generation, right? Mega Man 8, is a 2D traditional Mega Man game, but with all the benefits of a 32-bit CD graphics or whatever. Mega Man X4, X5, X6, same thing. On the PS2, they sort of tried to keep that going, X7 and X8, but they weren't sprite-based, but they still had, they tried to make some use of the modern technology, although I felt like they didn't turn out very well. But then they totally abandoned even trying to do that. But I think 2D gameplay is kind of on the resurgence, and so you see, like, Rayman Legends or something like that, and everyone's getting excited for it. Can you imagine a new Mega Man game with the Rayman Legends treatment? I'm just saying, that would be really amazing, and that would definitely get me excited. So, at any rate, I hope to hear at least something about Mega Man from Capcom's conference, and if it's any of the things I mentioned just then, I'll be pretty happy with that. Konami. What's Konami bringing? Metal Gear 5? Yeah. Lords of Shadow 2. Probably some other stuff. But, I'm interested in both of those. Well, I'm interested in Metal Gear. I didn't really like Lords of Shadow that much. I don't know, it's really just a God of War game, and Bayonetta is the ultimate God of War clone. Basically, it's everything you could want from that style of game, and Lords of Shadow just couldn't hang, and it was way too long. Way too long. So, Konami, I don't know, whatever. But, I started thinking about it, and, of course, like I say, I like it when classic franchises come back. I'd like to see, like, a Hardcore Uprising sequel or something like that. I'd love to see a new Rocket Knight, especially a 2D Rocket Knight. But I'd also like a 3D, like an actual 3D gameplay Rocket Knight. I've always thought that would be cool. It's sort of tying into that rare jetpack type thing. You could do it in a similar way, right, where you kind of boost around, and you could have cool flying stages that are like Star Fox stages, and then in between them you would have like 3D platforming stages where your jetpack's more limited or something. The original games were like that already. It'd be really neat. But anyway, could be that, but what I really want, most of all, more than anything, from Konami, is I want Igarashi put back on Castlevania. I want a new Igarashi Castlevania. So if they bring something like that to the table, that would really excite me. Obviously the handheld stuff on the DS was really good, but here again, could you imagine if the Rayman Legends treatment was given to a 2D Castlevania game on the home consoles? Full-on Rayman Legends, Vanillaware, hyper high-resolution 2D sprites. Oh my gosh, it would be so beautiful and so incredibly awesome. That would be the most exciting news they could possibly announce, am I right? I don't even know what could possibly compete with that. So, I don't know, but I'd definitely like to see something like that from Konami. Square. I got 2 comments for Square. First of all, I think they've already said that they're going to show off the next-gen Final Fantasy. That's great. But Final Fantasy's been very hit and miss for like over a decade now. So, Square, what you need to do is give this game the Final Fantasy IX treatment. So this is what I want to see from the new Final Fantasy, and we'll see what it's like. I want the new Final Fantasy to take a lot of gameplay lessons from the likes of the last story, but I want the game to thematically be a return to a more traditional Final Fantasy setting. I want airships. I want the black mages with the pointy hats. I want wind crystals and things, like that. That's what I want to see from Final Fantasy Next Gen, Final Fantasy 15. Don't want an MMO, obviously. We're not going to do another MMO. I don't want, though, another, pseudo sci-fi weird crap thing. They're not good at that, they don't do a good job with that. So don't do that. Final Fantasy IX style is what would really interest me the most, and I don't know how to gauge the likelihood of that. I feel like that's not that likely, but on the other hand, it's not impossible, At any rate, I hope that they do that, and I hope that they kind of modernize the gameplay a little bit in a way that's reminiscent of what you see in Xenoblade in the last story or something like that. Those are the best JRPGs of this generation, so I hope that the lessons of those games kind of percolate through the whole industry a little bit. But there's one other game that I've been wondering about, and if they don't talk about it at this E3, it isn't going to happen. So this is like the last chance, and that's Dragon Quest X. Obviously the Wii version is not coming here, but the Wii U version could still come here, maybe. Nominally, at least it's possible that it could come here. But the window of opportunity on that is closing, so if they don't talk about Dragon Quest X at this E3, that game won't come out here. I'm saying. It's not coming out here if they don't say something about it. And I think the odds are against it. The Wii U doesn't have a huge install base here. Subscription-based MMOs are not popular in the West anymore, and launching an MMO is not a trivial matter. I mean, that's a huge undertaking, so I think it's kind of a long shot that Dragon Quest X is going to come out here at all. But, and I'm not really an MMO player, so I'm not personally affected by that, but it bothers me that the Dragon Quest franchise has kind of just been ignored by Square in the West. I mean, and Square in general is ignoring the West with a lot of their games. Like, Square wasn't going to bring Bravely Default out here, and Nintendo stepped in. Square wasn't going to bring out Dragon Quest IX here, and Nintendo stepped in. And now, unless Nintendo's stepping in again, I don't think Dragon Quest X is going to come out here, and this bothers me. It's like, Square, this is one of your major franchises. This stuff needs to come out here. And just in general, I just feel like in the modern gaming world, it's stupid how many games get left behind in Japan. They need to bring all these games out in America. That's another thing, going back to Capcom a little bit. EX Troopers. That game's not coming out here. But I wish it would, and once again, this is like the last chance, in a way, for that game to maybe possibly get a release announced. I know what they said about the Japanese text as an art asset or whatever. Whatever. That's such a lame excuse. If they're talking about, the pop-up sound effect text that, pops up when you attack a character or something like that, that's awesome looking. You should leave that as Japanese text. If they're talking about the text in the cutscene that might, scroll under a character, dude, how hard is it to put like a little black bar over it to cover up the Japanese text and put English text in its place? Not that complicated, guys. So that's just a freaking lame excuse. Oh well, that game's not coming out here. But it just frustrates me that any game doesn't come out here, you know what I'm saying? And then it wouldn't be that big a deal if the platforms weren't region locked, but they are. They're all region locked, and every time a guy makes an unregion locked platform, I think, oh, you know, the PS3 is not region locked, this is going to become normal now, good. And then it doesn't, you know, they return to region locking, I just hate it. Ugh. Anyway, so, that's what I want from Square. I want to know that they have a commitment to bringing their games out here, basically. That's what I want. And I want Final Fantasy XV to be a return to form. Okay, one last major third party, and then I'm going to talk about a couple of the smaller third parties, and this is Sega. Sega has announced what they're bringing to E3, and it's like 5 titles. But it's possible that there's something they haven't announced yet that they're also going to bring. We don't know. So, of the 5 titles they're bringing, the most exciting one is Sonic the Lost World. That looks actually really good, like a return to form for 3D Sonic. So, I'm really interested in that, but we've already seen a lot about that. They already showed off the E3 demo and everything, so that they kind of totally cleared that one out. But that's precisely what makes me think that they may have something else in store, right? Because otherwise, wouldn't they save more back from Lost World? That's clearly their most interesting game. Why wouldn't they hold that back a little more? But they didn't. They gave it all out to IGN and stuff. So, makes me wonder if there's something else. And I've been thinking about what could they announce from one of their kind of underappreciated franchises that would really get me excited. And of course, there's so much for Sega. You know, they could announce, of course, Shenmue 3. That would be an earth-shattering announcement. Probably not going to happen. A new Jet Grind radio. I'd be all over that. They could announce like a Power Stone 3. That would be really great too. But as I thought about it, I thought, you know what I want to see more than anything else from Sega? I don't know why, but for some reason this is what would really impress me the most. Skies of Arcadia 2. A proper sequel to Skies of Arcadia. And I started thinking, and I thought it should be a Wii U game, because I thought the ship battles, you could have them all cinematic on the screen, and then have like an aerial view of the battlefield on your tablet, and like, you know, draw the routes of the ships and maneuver your units through the space, and in that way have this, you know, tactical ship battle unfold. That would just be awesome, and you could actually apply that to the ground, you know, normal ground combat as well, where, you know, you have like an aerial view of, you know, the deck of your ship, and you maneuver your characters around and surround certain enemies and stuff like that, and it unlocks certain, you know, powers and stuff like that, and you could also get all of that HUD stuff off of the screen and have that down on the gamepad as well, so instead of scrolling through a menu like to select your fire spell, instead of being like down, down, X, down, 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 X, down, down, X, you know, you could have it on the gamepad and it'd just be 3 quick taps, tap, 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 you know, magic, fire, you know, this one, this enemy, because they're viewable in this little aerial map, so you select the enemy in that way. That would be a really great way to streamline a turn-based battle system and put that on the Wii U. And anyway, I don't know, Skies of Arcadia is such a great world. It's disappointing that they never went back to it and never did more with it, so I'd really be impressed if something like that got announced. What are the odds that Sega has a big unannounced game? I don't know. Low, probably, but it's possible. I think it's a little suggestive that they haven't held more back from us, from Sonic Lost World, and saved that up for E3 a little more. It makes me wonder if they don't have something impressive. And, you know, that's what I'd like to see from Sega. Okay, there are a few other third-party developers that I'm curious what they're up to. These guys aren't big publishers, so there's just some stuff I'd like to see. Platinum, Bayonetta 2, I want to see more of that, please. I hope that's coming out soon. I know some people say that it's a long ways off, and I don't know, it could be further along than you think. I mean, they've already been teasing us with this for over a year, so it would be a little unlike Nintendo to tease you about a game for like multiple years straight. They do that with the Zelda games, but that's really it. For the most part, they keep it secret what they're even working on. That's why you sit there in February and say, well, nothing's coming out after March, because Nintendo has deliberately concealed, what might be coming down the pike in the next 9, 10, 12, 18 months, things like that. So the fact that we know about this game and they've been talking about it for over a year makes me wonder if it's not further along, and maybe we're about to see a playable build or something like that at E3. Anyway, I hope so, because that's one of my most anticipated games right now. Shinji Mikami's Evil Within, that looks really amazing. I really hope that we see a lot more about that. I want to see like actual gameplay footage and stuff like that for that game. It looks really cool. Yes, Mikami, I love that guy. Yaiba, the Team Ninja Inafune crossover game where they're teaming up. That looks really cool, and I'd really like to see more about that, and we know we will because they're bringing that to E3, they've talked about that. But that got me thinking about another guy that I haven't heard much about in a while. Itagaki. Itagaki is working on a game called Devil's Third, and supposedly it's a PS3 360 game. Could also be on the Wii U. They haven't announced a Wii U version, but Itagaki said in an interview that it would run, quote, just fine on a Wii U. It's using the Darksiders 2 engine. THQ was going to publish it in the West, but they've shut down and they returned the rights of the IP to Itagaki's studio that he started. So the game's kind of in a little bit of limbo in that respect, but also like we've not really seen it, or we know very little about it. It's some kind of third-person shooter with melee combat as well. And Itagaki's one of the best designers of like hardcore action games in the industry. So whatever he's working on, it interests me. And I'm very interested to see this game. But again, sort of like what I was saying earlier, it needs to be announced soon. It needs to be released soon, because it's for current-gen platforms, and it's not going to make sense to release a PS3 360 game, next fall, or something like that. In fact, that's one reason I think he might actually do a Wii U version, is because at least the Wii U has some longevity going forward. It's going to be the platform for a while, so there's like a chance for a long tail there for your game, conceivably. And also, an Itagaki action game, of course it's going to be M-rated, on the Wii U would be a nice change of pace, a breath of fresh air, for Nintendo platforms, and it would automatically be one of the most important games on the system. So I'd like to see, at any rate, I want to see that game. I want to know what's going on with that, because Itagaki is really great. Okay, another developer that I'm really curious what they're up to is Treasure. They're one of my favorite developers ever since the Genesis, Gunstar Heroes, and all of that, and I'm really curious what they could be doing, because they haven't released a major game since 2009, when they did Sin and Punishment on the Wii, and they haven't done anything since 2011, when the Guardian Heroes remake came out on XBLA. So, as far as I know, that's the last title that they worked on that they've released. So that means they've had like a couple of years to work on something. They've got to be working on something, and I hope we hear about it. They're the kind of studio that doesn't generally bring, they're not going to show up at E3 on their own, I don't think. So if we hear about what they're doing, it's because they're in some kind of partnership with somebody else. So Sega is working with them, or Nintendo, or somebody. Maybe this is an upcoming Wii U game, and Nintendo's going to talk about it in their Nintendo Direct. That's very possible, because their last console title was also a Nintendo title. I think they're a studio that kind of can't, they don't have the size to deal with really high-end development, and that's why they were making Wii games and download games and stuff like that, because, that's a smaller scope project. And that same logic would imply that they might be interested in working on the Wii U, because it's not going to be as big in scope as what they would have to do a game on like the PS4 or whatever. But at any rate, I hope I see something from Treasure, because they're one of the best developers out there. And the other person that I want to know what's up is Mistwalker. The Last Story is the best JRPG I've played, possibly since the PS1 generation. It is, I cannot overstate how good it is. Like, it is a really excellent game in almost every conceivable way. Very tight and focused and small. I would like to see the gameplay and the kind of universe of the last story expanded. It doesn't have to be a direct sequel to the last story. They could do with it sort of what they do with Final Fantasy, where every game is like a new world, but at the same time it's kind of a continuation of the gameplay premise. Something like that. I'd like to see it expanded into a game with a slightly larger scope. The last story has no overworld, and exploration is simply not a thing in the last story. And that helps it be very tight and focused, which is good. But I'd like to play a game like the last story with a little more exploration thrown in, more than one town, stuff like that. And I'm very curious to see what Mistwalker could be up to. They've had a little while. The last story came out in Japan some years ago. Even though it was only last year in America, it was like 3 years ago in Japan. So they've had several years to work on their next big game, and as far as I know, I haven't heard anything about it. I should have done some research before recording this, because maybe they've already announced what it is, but I haven't heard what it is if it's been announced. I'm not sure that any project has been announced, and so that's very interesting. I'd love to see what Mistwalker is up to, because they make the best RPGs right now.